In recent events across the nation, we are constantly reminded of Trayvon Martin and the Freddie Gray story out of Baltimore, Maryland. Could this incident in Nevada be another case of racial profiling? The drive cam shows without a doubt that the driver did in fact stop at the stop sign. As if this were not enough, many witnesses feel that the officer was using excessive force for a traffic stop and that he did not have probable cause to stop the individual. Although the officer was talking to the camera man riding with him, it was important for him to follow procedures. He should have communicated with dispatchers before the stop, letting them know what his current location was and why he was stopping the vehicle. At no point in time did I hear or recognize the attempt to reach the dispatcher prior to moving out of his vehicle. In the defense of the police officer, once he began to ask the suspect questions, he did begin to fidget, which in most cases, police officers tend to find that as a sign of guilt. You're trying to hide something, or either you are, getting ready to pull out a gun or perhaps cause harm to the police officer. I do see the fact that why the police officer at that point did take action, because he didn't know what the individual had. He was fidgeting, moving his hands around. The other passenger was moving around as well. And the questions that the police officer was asking the individual pretty much did not make sense. So in the defense of the police officer, I do, to a degree, agree with him taking action, but I do not believe the force that was used was necessary at the time being. According to, the information that I had found out afterwards, in regards to the gentleman that was driving, he did in fact lie to the officer. That was another issue. On top of lying, he stated that he pretty much had just gotten out of prison and he didn't have any license at all. So he lied on top of eluding the police. And of course, he did try to flee and elude the police after he was sprayed with pepper spray. And then the passenger actually took off with driving the wheel, obviously because the driver could not see with the pepper spray in his eyes. But in conclusion, there are some places I dare to travel myself, just because of history, the violence, and for officers, I do have, sincere, hopes that they make it home back to their families in some of these areas. And I do see why some officers do feel kind of threatened in certain areas that they work in. And sometimes in both scenarios, it's best to see things from both perspectives when we can. Some officers may have burnout just as teachers have when they are in a high crime precinct. So versus them being in a more country setting or in suburban area versus an inner city that has a high crime rate, I'm pretty sure the police officers in a urban area, inner city, are more on the defensive than you would find officers in a small country town. But regardless of all of that, I think that building better community relations is still one of the primary concerns of law enforcement through the country.